The Inverell competition boasts 15 divisions. This year there were more than 220 entries. They came from as far as the Gold Coast, the North Coast and Sydney. Rain yesterday sent players scattering for the sheds, but it was only a minor disruption to what organisers say has been some top tennis.
The standard this year has been really good. There's been a bit of a disaster in the open singles with the favourite Robert Frawley twisted his knee in the semi-final and he had to withdraw. But other than that, it's been excellent.
In the open men's, Wayne Deere beat Robert Schofield 6-4, 7-6, while Jackie Button had the wood on Lisa Quash in the women's, winning in straight sets 6-3, 6-3. Button then teamed up with Sue Beck to win the women's doubles. Robert Thorley and Kim Furnell were victorious in the men's doubles.
Is it?
The Excalibur Club is a group of businessmen from the Hunter Valley who love their football with a passion and raise money for their team, the Newcastle Knights. So far in 5 years, that contribution stands at over $300,000. And today the Excalibur Club presented their Players Player of the Year awards. Keith Madison accepted the President's Cup trophy on behalf of his son Tim. The Reserve Grade Award brought the house down. For the first grade, again a popular pick, the trophy going to a tireless worker. McCormick has had a sensational season, featuring in every match and also making an appearance in the blue jumper of New South Wales in the State of Origin series. And as the Players' Player of the Year, the Moth was quick to pass the accolades to others.
Yeah, it's probably one of the best awards you can get all year, having your peers vote for you, and knowing that the guys are got that much feeling about me and very happy with the way I've played, well, it makes me a lot easier at night, so it's great.
And hoping to improve next year, Robbie McCormick is adamant the Knights are set to get to the top of the tree in '93.
It's been a good year, yeah. It's the best I've had so far, so if I can only improve on it next year, well, bigger and better things for the club.
He said.
All roads lead to Inverell for the 5th Annual Land Management Field Day and Awards presentation. McIntyre Development Resources, in conjunction with the Department of Conservation and Land Management, sponsors a competition to find the best cared-for property. This year, the judges decided on Gordon Road's Gowrie after inspecting the property for attention to water and soil resources, vegetation and timber planting.
When he's cleared this country, he's cleared it very carefully, leaving timber on rocky outcrops, rocky knobs, ridges, in drainage depressions, and also ensuring that there's sufficient shade and shelter in each paddock for his stock.
About 90 delegates from various districts attended the field day at Gowrie, reflecting the growing awareness and recognition of environmental concerns in an industry often criticised for taking more out of the land than what it puts back in.
Our communities flourish, our districts flourish when we have people who show the way.
Andrew Lobb reporting for NBN News. With a long-term goal of clearing up the muddy waters around Moree, the Department of Water Resources is putting its money into the riverbank. All up, there's $200,000 on offer across the state, and so far more than 20 groups throughout the northwest have applied for funds. About $3,000 is available to each, with councils and community groups showing interest.
This is for people who are concerned about the degradation along the riverbanks, especially when there's no trees there at all, and they simply apply to us and ask us for money to help them buy trees, build their fencing to keep the stock away, put mulch around the trees, and if necessary put tree guards also.
The program seeks to re-establish nature corridors providing native animal habitats and to bind the riverbanks to reduce erosion. Sediment and nutrient washed from the bank and subjected to the hot summer sun increases the risk of algal blooms.
With more than 500 people involved in martial arts in Armidale, the future of the sport in the region looks bright. But to an outsider, stunts like this and this may seem a little strange. So, the New England Martial Arts Association held a display weekend to show the community that there's much more to karate than kicking and screaming. Guest experts from across the state were on hand to demonstrate that martial arts is more than a sport, it's a way of life.
It's well acknowledged in the academic world and elsewhere that newspapers offer a unique insight into the day-to-day activities of a community.
Wingham Chronicle, of course, is a unique record of the history of the community, the Wingham community, and is a unique resource for historians wanting to know the story of the growth of that community.
Recognising this, the UNE at Armidale has assembled a collection of many of the newspapers from throughout northern New South Wales. These copies of the Wingham Chronicle from the 1880s and 90s and for 2 years in the 1930s fill some of the gaps in the holdings already in the Dixon Library. Realising they are deteriorating rapidly, Mrs Grace Fitzpatrick, whose husband and father-in-law before him ran the paper from 1930 until 1964, made them available to the library to microfilm. And they'll be available not only to local students, researchers and academics, but to anyone who wants them throughout the world.
Interlibrary Loan Network makes our microfilms available anywhere in Australia or abroad, for that matter, to anyone who wants to make use of them.
They were bussed in from the Big Smoke to look at the Big Smoke. They stood and surveyed the terracotta quilt, a vista bearing a stark reminder of how suburbia comes to industry's doorstep. The EPA board was established in March this year. This is the first time the decision-makers have ventured out of Sydney. The board's eager to dispel any ideas that it's an aloof body which sits in its ivory tower and makes decisions about places hundreds of kilometres away. That's the reason for this reconnoitre, to see the hotspots firsthand. EPA Director-General Neil Shepherd.
I think it gives them also the opportunity to talk whilst they're looking at some of these things, which is exactly what they're doing at the moment. And I think that has a substantial amount of benefit.
The board is a conglomerate. Industry is represented, as is the environment, of course. There's also legal and scientific input. The EPA is examining several local issues: salinity levels in the Hunter River, the Kooragang waste facility, and lead emissions in Lake Macquarie.
It's a long haul to solve these problems. We do need the economic development. We also need the environmental improvement. We can get both of those, but it takes time and it costs money to do that.
Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
Led by American import Dedrick Brooks, the Wave has had an outstanding season, winning the New South Wales Country Championships in June, and followed that with a brilliant 14-4 win-loss record in the league. In their last three outings, the Wave has accounted for strong Sydney clubs Hornsby, Wests and Sutherland, and with that finished second on the ladder. The team is bristling with talent and boasting three sets of brothers: the White Twins, James and Spence, Shane and Aaron Walker, and the Westerlinks, Robert and Anthony. Rounding out the side attempting to win the trophy are Ben Hamilton, Mark Tang, Jamie O'Brien and Wayne Lubinskas.
Imaginations and abilities are running wild in a project called I Am a Writer, for those already gifted at putting their thoughts on paper. In the space of a week, students are required to put their stories into a computer, add titles and graphics, then print and send the work to publishers. With stories and plays about history, reptiles, mystery and murder taking shape, teachers and parents can't drag the young writers away from the keyboards. At Gateshead Primary School, students are experiencing new perspectives on art with traditional Aboriginal techniques explained by renowned artist Minnie Heath.
In Aboriginal you learn more things about the symbols and what they did when the Aboriginals were there a long time ago.
Tamworth Airport was a hive of activity as the RAAF's professional display team, the Roulettes, geared up for their contribution to the 42nd reunion of Air Force personnel. Strapped in, helmets on, it was time to wind up the engines. After a short warm-up, the 6 aircraft were up and away. Twisting and turning, the team flew in and out of formation in a perfectly choreographed routine. Flashes of red lit up the sky over Oxley Vale. The reunion brings together both past and present members of the Air Force, with officers from all over the nation converging on Tamworth for a weekend of reminiscing.
In the centre, Alligator Jack. Coppermite's got them covered. Placidly is fighting back. Placidly, Coppermite, Placidly, Coppermite, I think.
Coppermite just from Placidly and Alligator Jack.
It wasn't quite spray guns at 20 paces, but the competition was fast-paced at the Tighes Hill TAFE College. 15 masked young men from Lismore in the north to Wagga Wagga in the south and Tamworth in the west competed in the annual spray-off to determine who's the best at matching paint to a vehicle's original colour. The competition involved the apprentices mixing the paint, then rushing to a booth to spray it onto a panel. Then it was another dash to a drying area before a final check in the sunlight as to how well matched the colour was. And all of this was done under the harsh glare of the judges. And if the competitors were looking for pointers as to how to brush up their skills, there was a display of vintage cars showing off superb paint jobs of a bygone era. After the apprentices competed in 2 categories, standard and metallic colours, the Top Gun award, so to speak, went to Trent Core from Sydney. Scott Bevan, NBN News. Participating in a fishing competition, 45-year-old Russell Stanley Iron from Rooty Hill in Sydney was getting in some early morning angling on Fingal Point when he was washed off rocks by a freak wave at about 8:15. His daughter tried desperately to save him by throwing out a line and a friend dived in after him, but he'd disappeared by the time help arrived. A full-scale search was underway within minutes, including the rescue helicopter, the Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol's boat and craft from the fishing competition. But after 2 hours there'd been no sight of the missing man and the search was scaled down. The body still hasn't been recovered. 5 hours later, the tragedy was repeated on the Central Coast when a 19-year-old man was swimming with 2 friends near the Ettalong boat ramp. The friends turned around to see the young man face down in the water. An onlooker on the shore swam out to him, but he'd disappeared. After a search of almost 4 hours, including the rescue helicopter, 2 police launches and recreation boats, the body was found just after 5 o'clock. His name is yet to be released, but it's believed he was from the Central Coast. And in Inverell overnight, police and rescue squad members worked to free the body of a 24-year-old farmer from underneath a tractor on a property 20 kilometres north of the town. Police are not yet sure when the man fell under the tractor wheel or how the accident occurred, but they believe he was killed instantly. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Strange shapes suspended. On the ground, the kite-crazed clustered, playing a long line to a myriad of geometric dangling designs. As you may have guessed, it was Kite Day at Terrigal, an annual event put on by the Central Coast Wise Men's Club. There were prizes for the craziest, the largest, the most creative, the most beautiful, but the critical category, airworthiness. And on that score, some of the entries had a fall from grace. Profits from the day will be channelled into the Special Olympics for youth and adults and the Gosford Toy Library.
Units from Raymond Terrace, Taro and a bushfire truck from Port Stephens fought the blaze that started in the roof of a 3-bedroom brick veneer cottage in Purcell Street shortly after 8 o'clock this morning. It took firefighters about an hour to bring the blaze under control. The blazing roof collapsed into the body of the house, causing extensive damage to rooms and furnishings. One woman was the only person at home when the fire broke out and she was treated by ambulance officers for shock. She was consoled by neighbours. Firefighters believe there were suspicious circumstances and called in the police and the fire investigation unit from Sydney. The home was occupied only several months ago. Sections of the brick exterior walls are all that remain standing.
Nutrition in the playground has been something of a stumbling block for authorities for a number of years. But thanks to a request from cooks at daycare centres, that's about to change with the aid of a new book. It's called Caring for Children: Food, Nutrition and Fun Activities, and it's hoped kids will start to get the hang of healthy eating. Co-author Lauren Williams says it's vital that kids get the right diet.
Because what we wanted was for everybody involved in childcare to take responsibility for the nutrition of the children. We wanted people to see that serving good, nutritious food was just one other way of caring for children.
The book will be distributed across the state.
So there I was, burning fossil fuel on the fairway with inventor Steve McNulty on a machine which could provide mobility for those golfers with a disability. He calls it a get-about, and the principle's simple.
This one has a little petrol engine, it's a very comfortable seat, it's three-wheeled, and it has also a little drink cooler on it which makes it attractive to quite a few people.
Indeed. About $1,800 will get you in the saddle. Steve's also working on an electric prototype. Let me tell you, the motor version has a 4-stroke lead on it at the moment. We had a guest over this morning. Bill Torres' place backs onto the course. He wandered over to see what all the fuss was about. His verdict? Well, he was fairly impressed. The Getabout will be officially launched at a trade fair in Toronto. Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
The reaction to retrenchment among the 200 miners from the Wallara, Moonee and Catherine Hill Bay operations who attended the meeting could be read on their faces. Worry, anger and uncertainty.
Employment in the district, there's just nothing.
The retrenchment notices have been handed out to 280 workers over the past 2 weeks. This was the first combined meeting of those facing the sack. There were arguments over the technicalities of the last on, first off rule for laying off workers and how it should be applied to the 2 pits and washery. Others called for industrial action, which was rejected.
At this point in time, I don't see that as an option available to us, and I believe that if we'd done that, we would play into the hands of Coal and Allied, and they would certainly act on their workforce at Chain Valley, to say the least.
The men voted 157 to 12 to maintain the traditional seniority system and to condemn C&A for the retrenchments and lack of negotiation. The union will now appeal to Natural Resources Minister Ian Causley to intervene.
The avenue that we will be pursuing very hard with the Minister is that he takes on board the actions of Coal and Allied in relation to their tendering process for the state-owned mines and the fact that they will be applying for and seeking new leases.
While the union battled for its members' future, the Upper Hunter mining interests of the Costain Group have been sold for $280 million. US giant Peabody Coal is the buyer. automatically making it one of the largest producers in Australia. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
It was the quick and the dead.
We sold out within an hour.
The horde sidled up to bookstore cashiers and asked for Madonna's Sex in hushed tones. In most stores, the book was kept under wraps under counters. Some shops banned the book from being opened on the premises. One girl won't be opening it at all. She's keeping it in its cover as a collector's item. Amidst all the hype and controversy, retailers are rubbing their hands.
Well, I suppose it makes figures, doesn't it? But, I mean, that's not, we're here to give a service.
Newcastle stores are now desperately trying to get more copies in stock overnight, anticipating another deluge of Madonna mania tomorrow. Anthony Griffiths, NBN News. .33 Ash Tree Drive became a danger zone early this afternoon. Just after 2, this Armidale City gas tanker arrived. As the driver negotiated a steep driveway, a retaining wall gave way. The tanker, laden with 14 tonnes of LP gas, listed badly. The driver scrambled free.
It could have been a disaster if the truck would have rolled down into the house.
Police evacuated surrounding homes. Power to the area was cut and ambulances placed on standby as they waited for the fire rescue squad to arrive.
It was very precarious actually. Even when we were working around it, it was moving, it was slowly sinking in.
Hoses were trained on the truck, a crane was called in, secured with chains, the tanker was hoisted back onto 4 wheels. It wasn't damaged. Residents were allowed to return to their homes just after 4. Anthony Griffiths, NBN News.
Far removed from the lessons in the classroom, a group of 15 Lambton High students have been getting their hands wet in learning about the environment. In the stormwater drains behind the school, the students were trained by a Hunter Water officer in how to use their Streamwatch kit, a $2,500 package to test just how polluted the suburban runoff is that's eventually flushed onto our beaches. Streamwatch is a hands-on lesson that the students are keen to embrace.
In a classroom, all we'd really be able to do is look in textbooks and that would tell us what to do. But if we do it in our own environment, then we'd be able to help our own environment because we'd have immediate results.
Well, we can learn what's going into the drains and where it's all coming from, hopefully.
While the students gain knowledge through Streamwatch, Hunter Water benefits by recruiting more observers for monitoring pollution.
Are guardians of the stormwater channel. They alert us to any potential problems that may be occurring in the stormwater channel.
Lambton High is the 9th Hunter school to join the Streamwatch program. The corporation hopes that these students will take home what they learn and teach their parents that what goes down the drain will sooner or later affect all of us. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Celebrating a week of harness racing, the Newcastle Club is hoping for a huge turnout to see some of the best pacers in Australia. And for the Carlton Mile, Inter-Dominion champion Westburn Grant is trying to make it 3 wins in a row. Many tipsters are suggesting that the Carlton Mile of 1992 will settle down to be a 2-horse race, but there are many others in with a strong chance. Franco Glenn's run on September the 28th at Fairfield was full of merit. And there'll be many fans here hoping for a hometown victory. Catch the Action owned by Dick McLean had a strong win at Harold Park on September 25 and is not without a chance.
Rivers Halo into the straight. Meadow Mirage in front. Empire Ginger and Joshua Tree making a race of it. Meadow Mirage in front. Joshua Tree right out. Joshua Tree coming home the better and got it.
They're in front of Circus Maximus, Level Advice. In front of Game Action, Circus Maximus starting to whiz at the end, but he won't catch Level Advice.
Westburn Grant has exploded away. 3-4 lengths in front of Thorate and then Robert Preneur. But it's the real Westburn Grant tonight. Westburn Grant has killed them.
There are so few fish about that even the cormorants are coming in to be hand-fed. The shelves at the Newcastle Fishing Co-op are relatively bare, explained in part by rough seas running along the coast this week.
Probably the worst I've seen in 2 or 3 years, I'd say.
High winds we've had lately and the cold currents that have been in evidence around here for the last couple of months.
I think the weather's changing. It seems to be a different weather pattern than we were getting, years ago.
Most boats haven't ventured out for days. Some that have report an increase in the number of whales offshore, while marine mammals, hundreds of kilometres off course, are showing up on the beaches. 18 dugongs, usually from tropical zones, have been spotted between Nowra and Port Macquarie. Dead dolphins have washed up on Newcastle's beaches. Sea snakes and turtles have been found, while leopard seals, usually at home in colder southern waters, have moved a long way north. Experts are baffled. Autopsies have been carried out on some specimens in an attempt to find a link between incidents. Marine Rescue and Research Organisation Orca has set up a hotline on 02 412 4747 for people to report marine mammal strandings.